Hello and welcome. This is rooflemonger, my friends. Hunter Nen Impact, the new fighting game based off the popular anime license. We finally have gameplay. I don't have to show you that same 30-second clip we've been showing you for months and months now. Here's proper gameplay of the game. And before we even get into anything, I think you can tell just by what you're looking at. Yes, this is very much a versus style of game, as in Marvel versus Capcom style versus. 3-on-3 action, crazy air mobility, and just crazy moves just in general. And now that we have some gameplay ahead of its grand debut at Evo Japan, in this video, we're just kind of going to go over everything we now know. Gameplay, mechanics, all that kind of stuff. Now, a few things before we really get into it. I don't want to really construe this as a negative, however, just by, say, looking at the footage you're looking at, no, the game doesn't exactly have the same budget overall as, say, a 2XKO does. Them's the breaks on that. The footage could be a little crisper, could be a little bit more high-res. I'm doing the best I can to make it look good here. But yeah, one of the things we knew about this game, Nen Impact, before we even knew it was a proper fighting game was Bushiroad did not give it the highest budget to work with. But you know what? The developer is aiding. The original developers of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they're doing their best here. And if you're a fighting game player, gameplay should matter a lot more to you than graphics. And that said, for the gameplay, other than some twists, which we're going to go over, this game is basically Marvel vs. Capcom. Obviously, not the same characters. We got the different license. We have the Hunter x Hunter license here. But gameplay-wise, it kind of fits a lot of the same bills. So that all said, now let's go over what we currently know about the game. So right now, 6 playable characters in the current build. Going by the screen itself, looks like 16 total characters at launch. Although obviously not everyone is known just yet. Safe bet to assume take the most popular characters of the Hunter x Hunter franchise, and those will be the ones in the game. I'm not sure who those are just yet. I still haven't watched a show. I will. I'm going to get to it. I will watch a show. I've been told that this will probably be my favorite character, and makes sense looking at the character. Looks like it'll be the game's token big character, and that's exactly what I'm going to go for. Now, let's talk controls. So looks like we have an 8-button game here. So we have light, medium, and heavy. Those are your basic attacks. Easy enough to explain, right? I don't need to belabor that. We have the rush button, which I'll go into after this, because that will need a little bit of an explanation. We have the N button. N is Nen Impact, like what's in the title, Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact, right? So that's the Nen Impact button. And we'll discuss that in a moment as well. P1, P2, these are your 2 assist buttons. This is a 3-on-3 tag fighter. There's going to be a lot of assists. And Arts is the special move button, and we'll start with that. So Arts being the special move button, this game is what we would call a simple input kind of game. So hit the Art button, hit forward or back in the Art button, all that kind of stuff. That gives you your special moves. No need for a dragon punch motion or a quarter circle forward motion or anything like that. In fact, to that point, there is no other motions in this game. It's not even like DNF Duel aiding's other game. The special moves in this game are simply hit the special button or a direction in the special button. So I guess in a way there is no simple input because the simple input is the whole input mechanic. There's an interview, and I'll link that in the video description, and basically part of the game design is they want this to be as easy for beginners as possible. And there's a trend in fighting games. 2XKO is doing much the same, right? 2XKO is a very complicated game, but the inputs is not one of them, and I guess this is another game going that route. They don't want to scare off beginners with things like motions. There'll be plenty of other things to scare off beginners, given that it's going to be a versus game, but motions won't be one of them. So yes, this game is an easy input game. Hit the button in a direction, you get your special move. And hit the Arts button and the Nen Impact button in a direction, and you get your super special moves, like this, what you're seeing on the screen right now. And just like Marvel vs. Capcom, there's quicker level 1 supers and bigger cinematic level 3 super moves. And you can hit 5 bars in total, just like Marvel vs. Capcom. There's a lot of Marvel in the game, but once again, this is by the creators of Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Now, I did mention the rush button as well. This is another caveat for beginners. The rush button is the auto combo button, basically. You hold on your rush button and start jamming on light, medium, or heavy, and you'll get the appropriate auto combo for it. Apparently, given what we know, these are very damaging combos. They're not nothing combos, right? I'm gonna have to assume they won't be like the most optimal combos, but they'll be good enough for beginners to get their damage in. Hopefully we'll never have another situation like the King of Fighters 14, where Choi's auto combo actually was his optimal combo, funnily enough. But yeah, it's there to give beginners a fighting chance, right? At least they can get some damage in, even if it won't be the most optimal combos. I know some people really don't like auto combos, but hey, this is the way the world works. Auto combos, modern mode, all that kind of stuff. It's how we kind of are in fighting games. The one thing I say at least is you have to hold the dedicated button to get the auto combo. So it's not like you'll get it by accident if you overmash. The only way it works is if you're holding the rush button. And now lastly, what is the Nen Impact button? Nen Impact is your drive impact, your focus attack, whatever you want to call it. It's your armored F-off move, basically. And everyone has it. It's its own dedicated button. Once again, this is a game they want beginners to have an easy time with it, so it's just on its own button. And how it works is basically, it's just an armored attack, and it armors through highs and mids, but not lows, so there's a built-in weakness to it. So if you know the enemy is prone to mashing Nen Impact getting the armor, just go for a low, you beat it automatically for free. Also down Nen Impact, this is probably what this is right here, also armored, but it seems to be like kind of the dedicated anti-air button. We'll have a vertical reaching hitbox and try to snipe people out of the air, and you can start combos. But yeah, it's effectively everyone's equivalent of a reversal. It's on a dedicated button. There you go. So that's the controls, so nothing too mind-blowing necessarily in and of itself, and all makes sense for, you know, the kind of game that this is. So now let's talk the base gameplay mechanics now that we've talked things like buttons. So once again, very much a versus game. So when it comes to things like air movement, we got it. Everyone can air dash as far as I can see from this build. Maybe there'll be like a Hulk style character later on that can't air dash, I don't know. But for now, everyone seems to air dash and have general versus game movement. Also versus game style defense, as push block is very much a thing. So in this game, it's called bounce guard, because you have to have your own term, right? You can't just steal the terms. But it's effectively the same deal. After a block, you can have the enemy kind of rejected out and pushed out, so you're not just completely smothered by offense. Also, you may have noticed the red glow in the previous section, so that is the overgear. So overgear, you can see it's just written right there on the health bars. It's a big deal apparently, as it's very much this game's X factor, like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and kind of working in a similar way. So when you enter overgear, it's a quick flash. You can use it to like stop time, defend yourself, or perhaps start a combo. And much like Marvel vs. Capcom, the more of your characters that are dead on your team, the stronger the overgear gets, the more damage you will do, and the faster your character is. Suffice it to say, X Factor is kind of a big deal in Marvel vs. Capcom 3, right? Sort of a game-defining mechanic, and since this, once again, I'll keep saying it, just to get it in your heads here, this is the developers of Marvel vs. Capcom 3 making this game, so overgear probably gonna be a big deal. Now here I do want to point out something that's a bit different than how other versus games tend to do things, and that's health recovery. So let's rewind, let's look at that last section actually. Let's look at Kahlua here. Hopefully I'm pronouncing the name right. I will watch the show eventually, I promise. So looks like they have lots of recoverable health, right? You know, the gray part of the bar. Sure, that all makes sense. And also tagging looks like Marvel vs. Capcom style tagging. Now here I got the health bar highlighted. So there's a small delay. No health regenerating yet, and this is all happening in real time. Now look how fast this health recovers. This is insane. Like, yeah, okay, there is that delay on the health regeneration, sure. But after that, you get back almost all the recoverable health like instantaneously almost. As of the time of me recording this, I am not sure if there is like, say, a snapback mechanic where you can force an enemy to tag out against their will. Given the incredible health recovery of someone who is tagged out, I would think that there would be, because other than that short delay, if you don't get them tagged out and back in real quick, they're going to get all that health back really fast. Like we're going to have another example here in a moment. And once again, small delay, no health regen. And then as soon as it kicks in, it basically kicks in all the way. And that health is it's just so fast. It's so crazy that it's so fast. Like, yeah, any tag game, any fighting game tag game where your partner's tagged out and, you know, they have recoverable health. If it's a game with that, they're going to regenerate it, but just the rate it regenerates at is just really absurd. And, well, that's that, I guess. We'll figure it out in time. Now, here's another one where we're going to rewind a little bit. So, enemy knocked out, new character comes in, and they just come in. There's no transition, there's no scene effect, there's no cutscene, there's nothing like that. They just come in while the enemy can do whatever they want. Now, this usually has always led to trouble in Marvel games and all sorts of shenanigans one way or another when someone gets tagged in, right? In more modern games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, if you got bopped, you lost the character, okay, take a breath, we're going to do a little cutscene, we're going to reset the neutral, nice and fair for everybody, go from there. Say for even more modern 2XKO, maybe we don't fully reset the neutral, but there is the little cutscene, okay, take a breather, reset, okay, let's figure it out from here. Nen Impact does not subscribe to these modern conventions, it looks like. So when you lose a character and your new character's coming in, prepare for mix-up for game, basically, because once the setups start getting figured out, and I'm sure they will exist, you'll probably have a 50-50 chance to lose your character on the spot. Is that fair? No, not at all, but this is not gonna be a fair game. I'm gonna tell you that right now. This is gonna be a dirty, grimy, greasy game. Greasy. And you know what? For a lot of you, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what you want, so it all kind of works out in the end. It might have a lot of, you know, easy for beginner mechanics, sure, but it's gonna be a very greasy game in the end. And now for yet another mechanic, let's rewind just a moment again. So here you can see the quick gear. So what is quick gear? It uses up all of your recoverable health, and you'll see in slow motion here if you have a look. When the quick gear goes off, all of Leorio's recoverable health goes away, but he just kind of resets in place. Basically very similar to the conversion system in DNF Duel, which is another game made by the people making this game, right? And also, depending on the amount of health you burn, it seems that you get a small buff as well, indicated by the blue glow you're seeing right here. So yeah, a lot like DNF Duel, if you have recoverable health to burn, you can do whatever you're doing, cancel out of your motion, effectively like a Roman cancel, and then keep your offense going. So you're effectively using your health as a resource. Honestly, as far as DNF Duel goes, it was a pretty cool mechanic. I liked it, so I think it'll do plenty fine enough here. And that's what we know for now. I'm sure there's plenty of mechanics that I'm not aware of currently or not announced currently. I can only go by what little is out there and also what I can notice myself for what's in the game's footage. But that's it as it currently stands anyways. And now just kind of talk about the game. So everything I've been seeing out of this so far, granted, very limited footage from people who are only really playing the game for the first time, right? But there's a lot of the versus game silliness going on. Like Gon has all sorts of crazy armored attacks, armored dive kick style moves. Kurapika with the chain thing. Once again, I'm not sure what it is. I'll watch the anime eventually. But like gigantic, most of the screen attacks that do not have a hurt box attached to them. Like, it seems like the right kind of wild for a versus game. Now, I know graphically it's not a powerhouse. It's certainly no Dragon Ball FighterZ or 2XKO or whatever. My understanding when the game originally got announced, and this is before we even knew it was a 2D fighting game, is that the budget was very low, roughly 650,000 American dollars, which these days in game dev is not much. So hey, maybe it's not a looker, but as long as the gameplay is there, that's what really matters. If the gameplay is cool, if it truly is by what it looks like a modern interpretation of Marvel vs. Capcom 3, there'll definitely be an audience for that gameplay. The game will be open to the public this weekend at Evo Japan, and I'm sure someone's going to figure out some really dirty setups or combos, just some really greasy, grimy stuff. Then everyone will lose their minds and we'll probably forget about the graphics. Like, it doesn't even bother me, honestly, but I'm already seeing the arguments on Twitter as I'm editing this video, so that's the reason I'm bringing this up. Other things, like the whole game is simple inputs, there's like a dedicated drive impact button, the Nen Impact, right? So as far as like just getting beginners hands-on, it'll be easy enough. Combo structure, I'm sure is like Marvel, like light, medium, heavy, ABC combos. You can dial it in. So it won't be hard to like get your hands on this game and get started. Obviously there'll be advanced stuff, sure. But with a popular enough license, I know this isn't Dragon Ball or One Piece or anything, but a popular enough license, bring in the beginners, hey, maybe you'll get a few new fighting game fans out of it as well. So far, I'll say my initial impressions are positive. I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm sure eventually when I know more about the game, I'll like, oh, this character's so stupid, oh, this thing's so broken, and we can cry and complain for nerfs or whatever. But till that point, everything looks all right to me, right? I like the general game flow. The movement seems to be what it needs to be, right? Once again, it's not the fastest right now with this gameplay, but these people who are only playing the game for the first time, so they're not fully confident in what they're doing at the moment. It'll get better when people play more, I'm very, very sure. But everything seems all right, right? You got the classic 3-on-3, you got the multiple assists, you have overgear, which is effectively not X Factor, but also bringing in some other things like the DNF dual conversion system, which will probably make offense even crazier than it already is, actually, considering you get, like, you know, that X Factor style effect of doing whatever into a cancel into a combo, and you can do it without having to burn the X Factor or overgear, as it's called here. So certainly a very, very high potential for just aggression in general. And in the end, hey, I'm just looking forward to it, right? I like versus games. The channel got its start with versus games for the most part. Like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, sort of what put me on the map. And obviously, Dragon Ball FighterZ, kind of a fan of the game. So yeah, I like the versus games. So just looking forward to seeing what the game has to offer, really. That said, that's the news as it currently stands. That's the info as we now know it. Check the video description for just a little bit more, although it's going to be Japanese language. And if we learn anything new at Evo Japan, I'll be sure to follow up. But for now, this is what we got. So that all said, well, hey, that's the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play, eventually, some Hunter Nen Impact.